Well, we got several interesting guests today. Obviously, we're on an off-site studio. We have Dr. Nicholas Wright, neuroscientist, advisor to the Pentagon, worked as a physician in London and research on strategic and international studies. Neuroscientist, who writes and consults and teaches about the intersection of psychology and technology. And finally, we're going to talk to a comedian and get a little levity with Mark Malkoff. But the general theme here is going to be how AI is taking over our minds, how we're being manipulated, what we know of, or how we can assess the truth. We're going to look at that from a couple of angles, and we're going to start with Dr. Nicholas Wright right after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
First, Dr. Nicholas Wright. As I said, he is an advisor to the Pentagon, Joint Staff, researches brain technology and security at University of College London, Georgetown, and the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and the National Defense University. He would worked as a neurologist in London, Oxford, and his latest book is Warhead: How the Brain Shapes War and War Shapes the Brain. There it is. You can follow Dr. Wright on X. Nicholas, Nicholas, Nicholas D. Wright with a W, W-R-I-G-H-T. And you can also follow at intelligentbiology.co.uk. Dr. Wright, welcome to the program.
Ruth, thank you very much for having me on.
So let's start with your book. Tell me about the book and why I should read it.
Well, I mean, it's a book about why humans go to war, and it's a book about if there is a war, how we can avoid losing a war and how we can win that war. And I think that anybody who looks at the news today can see that this is exactly the kind of book that we need right now. And the crucial thing to remember is that human beings, human brains are built, every human brain is built to survive and hopefully win a conflict. Right? And there's not one simple reason why that's the case. There are many reasons. So if you travel through the brain, you start down at the base of the brain cell, and you travel all the way through to the frontal pole, the bit just behind your forehead, which is the most sophisticated part of the brain, the most human part of the brain. Every single part of the brain drives us towards conflict. Fear, for example. Fear is useful. We need fear. If you don't have fear, if you lose the parts of the brain that are involved in generating fear, you don't become a fearless criminal. You can become a victim of crime. Right? We need fear, and yet fear can drive us towards conflict. Misperceptions and misunderstandings can spiral and lead to war. And that's a function of just how our perceptual systems in our brain work, right? We have to fight against injustice, right? That can drive us to great things. And yet when two groups both feel too exclusive on an idea of injustice, that can drive us towards war. There are so many different things that drive us towards war. But if we can understand that, then hopefully we can reduce the chances of war happening and of war escalating. Yeah. And if wars do occur, then we can win those wars. And I think the key thing is about self-knowledge. If we can know ourselves better as humans, then I'm optimistic that we can make a better and more peaceful world. We can never abolish war, but we can get closer to a more peaceful world.
Sorry, one second, Dr. Nicholas. There may have been a power outage in the studio where Drew is, so just give me 1 second. Be right back, guys. Just 1 second.
All right, so sorry about that. We had a total meltdown of the system. Dr. Wright, let's see if we can get him back up here. Yeah, so sorry about that. Dr. Wright, you cut off me just as you were saying as each human brain is wired to...
listen to music. No, every human brain is built for conflict. right, is built to survive and hopefully win a fight, right? And as you look through the brain, right, going all the way from the brainstem right to the base of the brain, all the way to the frontal pole, the bit just behind your forehead, which is the most distinctively human part of the brain, every part of the brain, right, can drive us towards conflict. So take fear as an example. Fear is useful. We need fear. People think fear is a bad thing, but we need to have fear. So if you lose the part of your brain that is particularly involved in fear, which is called the amygdala, that doesn't mean you become a fearless criminal. There are people who have that, and they, classically become, for example, victims of crime because they can't navigate the world properly, understand and deal with threats. There are so many other things about our brain that are useful, that help us survive, and yet can drive us towards conflict. And if we can understand ourselves better, if we can understand our brains, then we can understand why we fight, and that can reduce the chances of war. And also, if we understand our brains better, if we must fight, which sometimes we must, then if we understand our brains better, then we can hopefully avoid losing and win those wars. And for those reasons, I think in our current time, that self-knowledge can be vital to get us to a more peaceful world.
Okay. Are we back here? Okay,
yes,
sorry about that. We glitched yet again. So now we find ourselves in a battle. You mentioned something about being able to determine, based on brain knowledge of how the brain functions and how it's evolved, how to win a war or at least settle a situation. Do you have any insight for the current moment, especially when we live in a time when we can't, I don't know what is real and what isn't. Literally, I feel like I'm sort of in Wonderland trying to figure out, is the white rabbit real or not?
I mean, I think there are two separate things there. So first of all is how can we know what's real and what's not real? And then the second thing is what can we say about, how we should think about what's happening in Iran at the moment? And I think just for this avoidance of doubt, there really is stuff happening in Iran. I'm joking, but there really is stuff happening. So why is it so difficult for us to understand what's happening? And the reason is, in many ways, it's not remarkable that we, get confused about things or lose touch with the reality. Right? That's not what's remarkable. What's remarkable is that we can be linked. We can moor our understanding of the world to reality at all. Right. So you, me, every listener out there, every viewer, right, your brain is stuck in a dark, bony vault. Right. It's just getting information in through very limited channels. And how is it anchoring that to reality? So take, for example, vision. Right. Your vision, it looks probably like a nice, sharp and colorful image all around you. But actually only the very center of your retinas, the sensors in your eyes, actually have sensors that are good for seeing detail and color. The rest of it is added in because what you're actually seeing is a model of the world. Your brain is giving you something far more useful than just a raw data image, like a passive TV set in your brain. You're seeing a model of the world. And that model of the world gives you information that's more useful, right? Things you should care about, things that are new, things that are potentially dangerous, things that are interesting, things you should pay attention to. And of course, that means those things can always be exploited. Those aspects of your brain can always be exploited by enemies who seek you ill, right? Or seek to confuse you or sow discord in society or whatever. Now, why that's the case?
Hang on one second, Dr. Wright. I need you to sit right there and reset this thing. Right there. Don't move. and this thing is glitching constantly and has to be reset constantly. So
Sorry.
I need somebody there resetting this thing. Okay.
He's in a remote studio today.
You can grab a chair now, but I didn't want you to lose it for 1 second because I am furious about this technology.
Oh, no.
Okay, Dr. Wright.
No worries.
So finish with your point. So the point is, though, all we have is these limited, highly evolved sensory systems that are interpreting and predicting reality. They are not seeing reality, and it is easily. And it is easily, we can't know reality. We can never know the full truth. Only God, let's say, can know the truth.
We're anchored or moored to reality, but it's only ever, what we're seeing is a model of the world, right? And because of that, other people can always sow discord. They can always try and mislead us, right? And that's been the case. So if back at the beginning of the 20th century, there was the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, right? Which was a bit of misinformation, right? During the Cold War, the Soviet Union and the CIA had enormous bureaucracies for generating misinformation. And
Yes.
the CIA was more restrained, but still, and the British and others, we were all at it, right? This is just the way it is. Now, the difference now.
But hold on, but I'm going to stop you. I know where I don't want to interrupt what you're building to.
No, go on.
But the reality is that people who were under those systems of government have been literally inoculated by that experience. And so now these more sophisticated, ever-present systems are coming in like AI, and they don't believe any of it, and they know not to believe it, while the rest of us are still in this naive state of accepting what our echo chambers are handing us.
I mean, I don't necessarily think we do. I think, the fact that you and I are having this discussion indicates people don't. I remember when the internet first started and you could send someone an email saying, please send me your bank details. I need to clean your bank vault for you. And then people would, send off all their bank details. And nobody falls for that kind of, or very few people fall for that kind of thing now, right? And we know much more how these things work. Now, will it be different in the future? So let's just talk about what's happening right now. Things like AI deepfakes and so on. I think the fact that people realize, because I've made, deepfakes essentially on my computer. I make them for my kids. It's just a fun thing to do, right? We can all do it. So we know these things are possible, and we know, therefore, not necessarily to believe those things. So therefore, what you need to do is to think about how can we process information better. So why in our everyday lives are we not constantly hallucinating or constantly seeing conspiracies where they don't actually exist? The reason is that we humans have an incredible ability involving, in particular, a part of the brain just behind the forehead called the frontal pole. We have an amazing ability to think about our own thinking, right? To reflect and say, is this thing that I'm seeing actually true, or more likely to be true, or not? And so that's a remarkable thing that we can do as humans. And really that is the best armor we have against this type of misinformation.
Well, so you're asking for objective reflection, which something on shorthand these days. I mean, 30% of people, my understanding is, don't even have an internal monologue, right? They have no thinking going on in terms of a voice processing thought all the time. So to get people to step outside themselves and think about what they're seeing as opposed to reacting emotionally, particularly, I don't know, are you in the UK right now?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. So particularly in this country where right now people are being told that the subjective is the ultimate measure of reality. How you're feeling is the assessment of reality, that you shouldn't trust anything but the subjective and the political. It's the opposite of what you're advocating for.
I mean, I'm giving you the foundation of wisdom in ancient China, almost every ancient civilization. This is it. This is the best that we have. Are we always going to achieve it? No. Is it foolproof? No. Can we do it? Yes, as concerned citizens, we can do it. And a lot of people do it. And there are lots of practical ways that we can do it better. And if you are, for example, on social media, so there are obviously things that big platforms can do, right? Google can do, looking at images and all the rest of it. But we as individuals, the best armor we have, the only armor we really have, is to stop and reflect and ask, how likely is this to be true? What type of source does this come from? And that really is the best that we have.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I agree with you. In fact, I could not be more enthusiastic in my agreement with you. What you're seeing here is my frustration with the reality of what I'm dealing with in the world. And I was talking to my buddy Adam Carolla just yesterday about my frustration on this. Forget the fact that there are, these little sensory, little sort of squishy onion-looking things in our fingertips that send crazy messages up our finger and are processed various ways at our spinal column and then sent up to our thalamus and reprocessed again and sent to our sensory core. I mean, this is not when I push my finger on the table, it's not real. It's a interpretation. No, again. There we are. To embed us, it's not real, it embeds us. It's embedded in reality, though. So it's the best version of reality that our evolutionary process can give us. But for instance, my frustration is people rely unbelievably on memory as though it's a playback of a movie. And they will defend distortions and inaccuracies that are profound rather than saying, well, I have a memory. It may or may not be accurate, but here's how I remember things. Instead, they defend it like they're looking at a movie screen as they're defending it.
But then on the other hand, that's, that is, so again, when we're thinking about memories, so our memories are vital. The reason why we have memories is to navigate the future. They're not there as some, verifiable, precise understanding of the past. They're there to be helpful, to help us navigate the future.
Help us survive. It's all to help us survive, not to give us reality or the truth.
Well, the thing is though, that if it's not anchored to reality, if it's not moored to reality in some way, like for example, if my perceptual model of the world in terms of what I'm seeing, right, is not very good, then I'm simply going to bump into tables and things. Right. That's the reality. Yeah. Now, we get far faster feedback when we're bumping into tables and things like our visual system, right? But it's the same thing with our memory. So if we're really not remembering things correctly, then eventually that will cause problems. If we're really not more to reality and our understanding, for example, of how the world works more broadly in terms of politics, economics, family, whatever it might be, whatever aspects of it we're talking about, if we're not moored to reality in a useful enough way, then those models will also come a cropper. Right?
You know what it is? You know what's bothering me? It is an irrational certitude that people have. I mean, the reason we have the scientific method is we're trying to query reality beyond what our evolutionary systems can provide to us. We're trying to understand reality by intruding in it with this instrument we call the scientific method, because our evolutionary systems only go so far. We can't see quarks. We can't see the strong forces. We can't see electromagnetics. We can't see anything. We see light. We have no idea what it is. But we query reality with these careful, delicate mechanisms that we use inaccurately, by the way. And so that helps us continue to build this concept of what is real and what is not. So back to how people are manipulated. So what do we have, other than being reflective and using this very powerful system in the front of our head? Are there other ways that people can not be brainwashed, not be manipulated by AI? What's your recommendations, other than Lao Tzu, other than Confucius?
No, and just to say, but I think the key thing there is that we can enhance that in ourselves. So, for example, if we take a third-person perspective, if we keep the people around us who are questioning us, if we, there are lots of practical ways that we can enhance our thinking about our own thinking. But then, in addition to that, if we're then looking at these types of misinformation, so there are lots of practical things as well. So, how far do you trust the sources? So, it is that in normal life, a lot of people over the last few years have gone away from sort of more mainstream media. On the other hand, now there is a war. Who actually has the capability for verifying these sources unless they are a large bureaucracy?
Yes, and I can tell you, I can tell you're an excellent scientist and an excellent clinician just by the way you think and talk. I wish everybody was like this, but they're not. And so we have a real-time example, literally right now, evolving. A rumor has evolved in the last minutes, maybe seconds, that Netanyahu has been killed or murdered or is dead or something. So this is right now happening. What do we do? How do we assess and then not get upset?
The very first thing to say is that for 99.99% of us, it does not matter if we find out whether this is true or not within the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, or 5 hours, or 20 hours. right? So the first thing is it just simply doesn't matter whether this is true right now to almost all of us, right?
Yep. Right.
And so therefore, the first thing to say is let's not, get too excited about this, because there will always be these types of things going on, right?
Yeah.
So let's step back, then let's look at the sources. So what are the sources here, right? Then in addition to that, let's recognize there will always be this type of misinformation, right? Iran is obviously quite a capable actor, but it's not a very sophisticated or capable actor, right? This is nothing compared to the type of mass personalized, you want to talk about AI. This is what we're seeing now. This is basically some entrepreneurs making, deep fakes for money, and the Iranians doing stuff. If there was a war between the United States and China, you are in a completely different world, because they are both extremely technologically capable states, far larger than Iran, who have the ability to do mass personalization of disinformation. Right, that's the kind of thing that we're going to see. So when this type of thing happens, like now, the first thing to say is just don't worry about it in the first instance, almost everybody. The next thing is what sources can you trust? And we are going to have to be much more selective, particularly if we're in a really, important, great power war, not something like this, but a really big thing. Then we're going to have to be much more selective about the sources of information that we choose to believe. This feels
like a pretty big thing. Caleb, I want you to come in. So I guess his rumors get going. So now it's Netanyahu's brother, not Netanyahu. And what are and should we rely on these sources? Caleb, can you help me?
It's pretty impossible, because every article that you find when you Google it are all just a bunch of articles that are they're clickbait, trying to debunk something that they already know isn't true. So it's every time something like this, a rumor starts, everyone wants to monetize it. So you're going to have thousands of these fake AI accounts already generating, if they haven't already, have them in their they're just saved in the can already, these videos of airstrikes over at Netanyahu's home or something like that. It's just flooding the feeds right now, even though everyone knows this isn't true yet.
So to use Dr. Wright's technique, don't react, calm down, give it at least 24 hours to sort itself out with maybe some sources that do sound more reliable than others. And I guess realize that there's something psychological embedded in what you're saying too, which is we all feel so personally connected to all these things that in the 1945 we would have found out about 2 weeks later. And we're finding out about before it's even happening now, or as it's happening. And it makes it feel more immediate and more personal.
Definitely. And there's a big danger as well. If we get too involved with all the, hurly-burly, it's quite exhausting.
Yes.
So actually, we don't want to disengage. We need to be engaged. These are important world affairs that will change the future of humanity, potentially. We do need to stay at least, hopefully as concerned citizens, we need to stay at least moderately engaged. On the other hand, one of my favorite quotes is the Oscar Wilde quote, which, like everything these days, is probably apocryphal, but it was, he said, the problem with socialism is that it takes too many evenings, right? It's too, right? We don't have time for everything. We've only got time for a certain amount of caring about the world. And let's try and step back and think, what does success look like in caring about the world following events in Iran with this war now? It doesn't involve getting involved with every single rumor.
Voltaire addressed the same issue by saying you must just take care of your own garden at the end of Candide. It's just to focus on the things you can change, be local, be contemplative, as you're saying, and be mindful, I think is what he's asking for us. Dr. Wright, I appreciate it. The book is called Warhead, How the Brain Shapes War and the War Shapes Brain. I look forward to reading it. And I will follow you at Nicholas D. Wright with a W, W-R-I-G-H-T, on X. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks very much.
You got it. Coming up next, we have Nur Eyal. His book is Beyond Belief, The Science-Backed Way to Stop Limiting Yourself and Achieve Breakthrough Results. This is all that same topic, and we'll get into it right after this. Something our audience knows well is that what's good for our health can also be good for the environment.
Paleo Valley makes snacks, drinks, oils, and more that are nutrient-dense, delicious, and impeccably sourced. Co-founder Autumn Smith champions regenerative farming. It's a level beyond organic.
When you go to the grocery store, 90% of the animal products you're going to buy are from factory farms. And we obviously know factory farms work against nature. They work against animal health and in many ways against human health. Regenerative farms work on taking the landscape or the ecosystem from a degraded state, which the environment right now needs a lot of rehabilitation. And we have lower nutrient levels in our soil than ever before. We found that animal products from regenerative systems have nutritional benefits above and beyond other types of animal products.
Paleo Valley's beef sticks and bone broth protein powder are my favorites, and they come from regenerative farms. And the sticks also come in pasture-raised chicken as well.
We actually just went and visited one of our chicken farmers, and we work with a lot of co-ops and people all over the country.
We are such fans of Autumn, her work, and her extraordinary small business. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for a 15% discount on your first order, or get 20% off when you subscribe. What's going on with your retirement savings? This should concern all of us. Inflation is not some abstract notion. It quietly erodes purchasing power over time.
Central banks have been buying more gold for the last 4 years than they have in the history. And there's a reason for that. We have a love affair with the dollar and with paper currencies. And most people are just in paper. We're attached. And you know how relationships are. What do you say to a patient when they're locked in a relationship with someone who's obviously doesn't have their best interests at heart, but they stay with it?
Denial. And that's why we suggest Augusta Precious Metals. Their entire approach is very different. There's no pressure. They just give you education and information. Augusta explains how gold or silver IRAs work and how physical metals could fit into your retirement account without tax consequences. And they've operated for over a decade with thousands of clients. They put together a free guide that walks you through everything. It's available now at drdrew.com/gold. You'll get the same educational materials that Augusta gave to Susan and myself. So if inflation worries you, Augusta is a great place to start. Go to drdrew.com/gold. That is drdrew.com/GOLD, or just text the word Drew to the number 35052. That's 35052 to get that free guide now. I'm a physician, and I'm always watching out for products that can combat some of the more common frustrations of aging, like decreased energy, brain fog, maybe muscle and joint complaints. I want to share something with you. It's called Strong Cell. Strong Cell's key ingredient is NADH, something you've heard me talk about. It's the energy source for every cell in your body. The challenge is that NAD and NADH decline naturally with age. And with more than 30 trillion cells in your body, you got to keep them healthy. Healthier cells equals healthy you. Strong Cells become part of my daily routine. You might notice a difference: steadier energy, sharper mental clarity, better resiliency. But what stands out to me most is the company's focus on quality. They also use a proprietary delivery system to help the ingredients get where they're intended, to the cells. Supplements have to be absorbed, and they have to get to the cells, and quality matters. If you want to feel more like your younger self, go to strongcell.com and use code DREW for 20% off. That is strongcell.com, promo code DREW. StrongCell is also backed by a 100% risk-free money-back guarantee. So go check out StrongCell today. That's strongcell.com, promo code DREW. You only get one body, one chance, so invest in your health and be the best version of yourself.
Smell is sexy, or sushi, or Dr. Drupinski.
What?
Nur is my next guest, as I said, consults and teaches about the intersection of psychology, technology, and human potential. He has spoken and taught at Stanford Graduate School of Business and the Plattner Institute of Design at Stanford. He is author of Hooked, Indistractable, and the new book, Hooked, Indistractable, and the new book, Beyond Belief. There's Beyond Belief. Nur, welcome to the program. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Dr. Drew. Great to be with you.
So I've got so much I want to talk to you about. I don't know if you heard anything I was talking to Dr. Wright about. I am so consumed with concern about the way people are being manipulated, about the lack of reflection, about irrational certitude that people have about things that they should be skeptical about, and how AI and obviously social media is just making this all so much worse. What are your thoughts? Why is it happening? What do we do about it?
Well, I think we can take some comfort in knowing this is not a new business. That in fact, all media seeks to monetize your eyeballs. That's what they do, or your attention in some shape or form, whether it's old media like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or cable news. All of these formats are using your attention to make money. Now, that's not a bad thing per se. I mean, it's great that we can get so much value from these news outlets, but we have to make sure that we consume our media diet consciously, as opposed to just taking in whatever is fed to us.
But I agree with you. But how do people aren't doing that? That's what you're saying. The same thing Dr. Wright was saying, and that's what I'm so upset. I was just you said monetize eyeballs, and that's when COVID broke out. That's exactly what I thought had happened. I thought the media had gone berserk because they had an opportunity to monetize this thing by making everybody freak out. But it turns out hysteria is a government, official government operation also. And I was amazed to see in a recent book I was reading about 1935 Germany that they were talking about causing hysterias, how the country was caught in a hysteria. To me, I'm disappointed. I'm monetizing eyeballs is one thing, but causing hysterias and manipulating people for being irrationally certain and hysterical is reprehensible to me. You said it's not new. I believe you.
It's not new, but that doesn't mean it's not still dangerous. I think that where we start, here's what I think we do. I don't think we hand wring and say, the government should do something about this. And that's that. I'm not going to do anything until the government does, because if you hold your breath waiting for the geniuses in Washington to fix this problem, you are going to suffocate.
They're the ones blowing wind into the problem. They're the ones that scare me the most. I want them out of all this. I want them to be structurally removed from this and never do it again.
And definitely go vote. We absolutely should go vote. But what do we do in the meantime? Do we just sit here and wait for them to change things? No, that's stupid. There is so much we can do. And here's the thing. They want you to believe there's nothing you can do about this. The best thing that ever happened to the social media industry, I think, social media specifically, was that documentary, so-called documentary, The Social Dilemma. Because what that movie told people, and what has been repeated ad nauseum, is that you are a slave. The word addiction comes from the Latin addictio, which means slave. So when we tell people social media is hijacking your brain, that you can't stop, that it's addicting everyone, it does addict some people, of course. But as you know, of course, not everybody gets addicted to everything that's addictive, right? Many people have a glass of wine with dinner. We're not all alcoholics. We have sex. We're not all sex addicts. It's not just the product. So what we should be telling them is not what stupid journalists and movies like The Social Dilemma told people, that there's nothing you can do. They handed a gift to Facebook when they let that movie call itself a documentary. It's a documentary in the same way Jaws was a documentary about sharks, right? They interviewed me for 3 hours for that movie. And did you see anything I said in that film? No. And I had the answer. I told them exactly what we should tell people to do to make sure that technology doesn't take over your life and you're not spent scrolling all day long. But they didn't include it in the movie because they love the same narrative. They are the ones addicted. The media is addicted to creating this type of hysteria. So there's nothing that we should wait for the media companies to do. Because even if the government solves this specific challenge, you think there's not going to be yet another one that comes after it? There's always going to be something that distracts us, because for the past 2,000 years, at least since the time of Plato, we know that people have been distracted by one thing or another. So if they turned off social media, people wouldn't just start reading Chaucer and Shakespeare in their spare time. I hate to tell you that. They're going to go back to doing what they always did, watching sports, gossiping, doing all kinds of other silly stuff that takes up their time and attention. So we have to do about it first. Definitely go vote. Definitely go make sure that we change our laws. But in the meantime, do what you can control, which is to become indistractable yourself.
And so Indistractable, the book, right, is what you gave the social dilemma people as the solution?
That's exactly right. I sat down, I gave them a 4-part model that anybody can use to become indistractable, and they put 0 of it in the movie. It's as if you go to a doctor and the doctor says, "I'm so sorry, you have a life-threatening illness." And you say, "Oh my God, that's terrible. Is there any treatment? Is there any cure?" And he says, "Yes, there is, but I'm not going to give it to you."
So I don't want to give away too much so people don't read the book, but can you give me a hint of some of those 4 suggestions?
No. I'll give it all away. I wish I had more time. If I had more time, I'd give it all away. I think that anyone can do it. If they know how to become indistractable, it's not that hard. So what we do first and foremost is we realize that only 10% of the time that you check your phone, only 10% of the time is it because of a ping, ding, or ring. That's what we tend to blame. We tend to blame these external triggers for causing distraction. But studies find it's only 10% of the time. So what's the other 90%? 90% of the time that you pick up your phone, it's not because of what's happening outside of you. It's because of what's happening inside of you, inside your head. These are called internal triggers. Boredom, loneliness, fatigue, uncertainty, anxiety. That is the source of 90% of our distractions. So step number one has to be master internal triggers, or they will become your master. Whether it's too much news, too much booze, too much football, too much Facebook, you will always get distracted by something unless you know the root cause of the problem is trying to escape an uncomfortable emotion. That's step number one. Step number two is making time for traction. You cannot say you got distracted if you don't know what you got distracted from. So if you show me a calendar that's blank, it's got nothing on your daily calendar, what did you get distracted from? You didn't plan to do anything, so you can't say you got distracted from anything. So you have to use what's called time boxing, which is the most studied technique in history. It's called setting an implementation intention, which is just a fancy way of saying planning out what you're going to do and when you're going to do it, including time for media. You want to play video games? Awesome. You want to go on social media? Terrific. Do it. But do it on your schedule, not the social media company's schedule. The third step is to hack back the external triggers. Those pings and dings, they only account for about 10% of our distractions, but it's so easy. I mean, the devices come built in with ways to use them less. We just have to use these tools. The external triggers we don't talk about are the old things, right? It's the boss that comes and taps you on the shoulder when you're trying to get work done. Your kids, we love them. They're amazing. We love our kids, but they can also be a distraction. So we have to systematically go through all of these external triggers. And then finally, the fourth step is to prevent distraction with pacts. A pact is a pre-commitment. It's when we decide in advance what we will do when distraction rears its ugly head. Because there is no distraction we can't overcome tomorrow if we plan for it today. So if you use these four strategies in concert, master internal triggers, make time for traction, hack back external triggers, prevent distraction with pacts, anyone can become indistractable.
The thing, however, that gets left out very often, those are excellent suggestions. But in my world, the thing that gets left out of so much of the human behavior, sort of considerations in terms of making change is motivation. How do you get somebody motivated to do it? Because change is hard and sustaining change is even harder. You had something called the motivation triangle. Does that address this issue?
So that goes from one book to the other. So the Indistractable is very nuts and bolts advice for people who are sick and tired of being manipulated by any form of media. And so that's what Indistractable is all about. Beyond Belief answers this deeper question, which is exactly the one you raised. I know what to do, but why don't I just do it? And we've all seen this problem. Right. And this occurs because we don't understand motivation. We think of motivation as a straight line, okay? That if I want a benefit, I do a behavior. Very simple. But if it was that easy, we'd all have six-pack abs and be multimillionaires. There's something missing. What's missing is that motivation is not a straight line. It's a triangle. That I can know exactly what I want to do, know the behavior. I can know exactly why I want to do it, the benefit. But if I don't have the belief, it will not sustain my motivation. Let me give you an example. Let's say I have a boss and I don't believe that my boss has my best interest at heart. Maybe I don't believe they're going to give me that promotion. I don't believe they're going to give me that raise. Well, am I going to do my best work for that boss? Am I going to stay motivated? No, I'm going to slack off because I don't believe I'm going to get the benefit. Conversely, if I don't believe in my own ability to do the behavior, I'm too old. This is hard. I'm no good at this. Whatever you hear, these limiting beliefs all day long that are whispered in our psyche. If I don't believe I can do the behavior, well, then I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to sustain my motivation either. So for motivation to sustain itself, which turns out studies find is the most important trait of who meets their goals. It's not the smartest person. It's not the person who has the most resources per se. It's not the most skilled person. It's simply the person who can sustain their motivation and persevere the longest.
I just though I'm always reminded of the famous marshmallow experiment with the grammar school age kids, where they're left in a room with marshmallows and told, don't eat. Essentially, I forget the exact setup, but don't eat them. And the kids just, as soon as the adult left the room, put the marshmallow in their mouth. Except certain ones didn't. They were able to delay that gratification. And when they studied those kids later, guess who was the most successful kid? The ones that could delay gratification. So this whole phenomenon of how humans relate to their motivational system, I agree with you. But if somebody doesn't believe or trust or have a positive concept about the future or the person who's asking them to do the task, getting them to delay gratification is hard, and we have to teach people to do it when they're young. And we're not doing that.
I couldn't agree more. But we have to first understand that these beliefs are here. You see, these limiting beliefs, they're like your face. We all have a face. We can see other people's faces, right? If I told you, tell me somebody else's limiting belief. So I said, tell me one of your best friend's limiting beliefs or a family member's limiting beliefs. Oh, I can tell you all the things that they don't do well. But when it comes to our own limiting beliefs, it's like saying, look at your face. You can't look at your face the same way you can't look at, I can look at my hand. Right. I can't look at my own face unless I use a mirror. I have to use a mirror in order to reflect. And so that's exactly why we have to use a process to uncover these limiting beliefs, understand what they are, because to us, they feel like facts. But they're not facts. Facts are objective truths. Right. Beliefs are convictions that can be revised, that can change based on evidence. And so that's what makes them so special. Beliefs are tools, not truths, because they can change.
That's a good, I love that. Beliefs are tools, not truth, because I was talking to Dr. Wright earlier about how people defend they have irrational certitude about flimsy ideas, flimsy beliefs. Somebody sent me a video with you about the top 1% train their minds like this. What is that? What were you talking about? He watched the video yet, but I immediately became intrigued. The top 1%, it's master this mindset now. The top 1% train their minds like this. What were you talking about there?
I don't know. It might have been a while ago.
Oh, shoot. But I'm imagining it must have been some mastery sort of top 1%. It's probably about this. It's probably about improving motivational states. Yeah,
we do see that that there's a common trait that people who are successful, in many ways, are losers. What do I mean by that? That we think that people who are successful are the ones who win all the time, that they're lucky. Turns out it's not true. They're the ones that lose more. That if you talk to really successful people, they will tell you about all the times I tried this, it didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. They lose more. Whereas people who are not successful, they try once, and they say, no, I already tried it, didn't work. And then they install this limiting belief that served them at some time, that protected them at some point, and yet they keep coming back to that limiting belief, and they never push back their original constraints. What we found is, you might be familiar with this work, but we used to believe that there was such a thing as called learned helplessness. And we learn helplessness. This was proposed by Seligman and Meyer, and everybody in the psychology community believed that this was gospel, right? That we learn helplessness. It explains all kinds of socioeconomic conditions. A few years ago, didn't get much attention. A few years ago, Seligman and Meyer looked at the data again and completely changed their minds. Not only did they get it wrong, they got it 180 degrees wrong. Completely the opposite conclusion. Turns out we do not learn helplessness. Helplessness is our default. We always want to retreat into passivity because passivity is safe. It worked for me in the past. It'll work for me in the future. What we have to learn is agency. We have to learn hope.
I mean, the essentially what the learned helplessness came from an experiment on dogs where the dog would get electrified on one plate and they'd move over to the other and get relief. And pretty soon they couldn't find a safe place and they just shut down. And so really, you're right. It's not learned helplessness. It's biological shutdown. It's parasympathetic shutdown, which is a survival mechanism that the brain goes to when destruction is imminent, when there's no way out. And that is not, and what do we train warriors to do? Don't do that. Always keep fighting. Don't give into this biological mechanism that's in us.
But here's what the original study didn't have in it, that Seligman and Meyer revealed only 2 years ago. That some dogs in the experiment never quit. And they excluded those dogs from the data. The dogs that didn't quit, why didn't they quit? They didn't quit because they had some kind of previous experience, we think, that taught them that there was always hope. They had some kind of option of never quitting, always persisting.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to learn from this model. There's another beautiful experiment. I don't know if I have time here. Do I have time to share one cool experiment?
But it just you've really enlightened me on something here, because I think about how police people are taught, how the military is taught, never give up, never give up, never give up, never give up. I just keep fighting, and that is to fight that biological mechanism of shutdown and that we have. That we share with lizards. It's our lowest impulse. It's our lowest quality neurobiologically. But go ahead, tell me this other experiment.
That's perfect. No, that's absolutely right. So you know about the Kurt Richter study with the rats? This one blew my mind. So in this study,
where they keep going.
Yeah. So
I know a few of those.
Back in the 1950s, Kurt Richter had a very simple question: how long could a rat swim in water? Pretty simple. So he sat there with a stopwatch and he timed how long the rat could swim for. Swam. 15 minutes. The rat didn't exhaust itself. It just gave up. So now he wanted to see, could he extend the time that the rat could swim for? So he took a new group of rats, put them in this glass cylinder, waited till they swam for about 15 minutes. And then at the 15-minute mark, takes his hand in, plucks out the rat, dries it off, let it catch its breath, and then plunk back into the cylinder it goes. He does this a few times to condition the rat. Turns out the rat can now swim longer. How much longer? He went from 15 minutes. Most people think, okay, twice as long, 3 times as long. Wouldn't that be amazing if you could sustain your persistence 4 times longer? That'd be amazing. But the rats didn't swim 4 times longer. They didn't swim for 60 minutes. They swam for 60 hours. 60 hours of constant swimming. Now, what's the lesson here? What do we take away from this? The rats could always do this. They always had it in it. It wasn't that their physical bodies changed. It wasn't that the environment changed. Something in their minds, we can't ask the rats. The only thing that's left, only variable left, some switch was flipped in their mind, and all of a sudden what was in them for all along was unlocked. And that's exactly what we do. We limit ourselves at the 15-minute mark, and we don't realize we've got that 60 hours in us all along.
Yep. Resiliency, grit, gift of failure. These are all things that, thank God, people are finally starting to talk about again. But getting them to do it is still hard because it's uncomfortable. That's the thing.
Right.
And it leads, it's again, it's all about delaying. It's discomfort now so you can manage stuff later. But
true. The brain hates changing its mind. That's one thing I've learned for sure. We hate changing our minds.
Oh yeah. Well, unless you get used to it, unless it becomes part of your practice, and then it becomes exciting to change your mind. And I'm always amazed when people fight change, a change of opinion. I want to change my opinion. It's expanding my point of view. I want to challenge it. All right. Well,
we
listen,
have the same love language. That's exactly right. I love it as well.
Yeah.
The best gift someone can give is to give you a new perspective.
Absolutely. Listen, I really appreciate being here. I love this stuff. And I feel like we gave people some real significant nuggets in a very short period of time. So which book should we start with for you? Beyond Belief? Just start there?
Sure. Go for Beyond Belief. Just comes out today. Hot off the press.
Oh, beautiful. All right. Excellent. And also, we got to follow you on X. It's Near, N-I-R. His last name is spelled E-Y-A-L, one word. And Near and Far, it's very funny.com is your website, but it's N-I-R and Far. And get the book and check it out. Thank you so much for being here, Near.
Thanks, Dr. Drew.
Appreciate it. All right. So we are going to change gears a little bit. Upcoming, we're going to talk to a comedian. It is Mark Malkoff. He has interviewed everybody in the comedy world, and he has a particular interest in Johnny Carson's career and life, and his who he was and what he did. I think I saw Mark with my friend Alex Michelson, who is my former co-host. He and I did a show throughout the year during COVID on a local news station, and it's essentially comedy versus cancel culture with Mark Malkoff after this. More of our audience is taking health and wellness into their own hands, and they're doing it with The Wellness Company. For a discount on the best-selling products and everything on their website, for that matter, go to drdrew.com/TWC. The medical emergency kits are among the most popular items. There are 8 different kits, each depending on your individual needs. Inside, you'll find antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics, first aid, anti-nauseal, skin treatments, and a kids kit with EpiPen and one for travel. The advantage to having an emergency kit in the house is immediacy.
You don't have to run to the urgent care and spend a ton of money for all that infrastructure or wait for the pharmacy to open or try to find a doctor. And then there's Ultimate Spike Detox Supplement with nattokinase, turmeric, and bromelain. It has helped the vaccine injured. And anyone who is concerned about cardiovascular issues caused by lingering spike from the virus or the shot, the Ultimate Spike Detox is for you. One of TWC's top sellers is a topical ivermectin cream. It treats inflammation of the skin, issues like rosacea. The wellness company is always innovating. So go to drdrew.com/TWC to see what they have to offer and get a 10% discount there.
The other day he looked at me and he goes, "Hey, the V-Shred's working." He likes it when I try to lift it for him.
Nice. There's an excitement that comes with doing these kinds of workouts that kind of sustains you through the day.
It's exhilarating.
It's not working out hours in the gym. It's not running on a treadmill forever. It's not killing yourself with diet. These are all very reasonable recommendations. You just got to follow it. We're actually really genuinely very excited about what we're getting out of this. We like doing it together. We're both in on this, and it's been a real fun adventure. I don't know where we stop.
In the first 2 weeks, I lost 5 pounds. So There you go.
In your 20s, it's easy, right? We put on muscle easily. We're fit. We got tons of stamina. But as you get older, you may not be able to lose weight as quickly or as easily. You may not be able to put muscle on so easily. And joints and muscles sometimes start to hurt. And you may think or may have been told that there's nothing you can do about it other than taking more pills, eating more salads, or just spending endless hours at the gym. Well, that isn't true. Thousands of people are in the best shape of their lives merely because they've taken the time to do 3 things. No crazy diets, no extraordinary workouts that can injure yourself or exhaust yourself. Just a simple plan that has been proven to work. Rather than me explaining this to you for 30 minutes, there's a 30-second quiz you can take. So if you want to learn more right now, click the link below to get your personal life plan. Hey, Dr. Drew here, and we are interested in health and longevity, and the longevity nutrient is Fatty 15, discovered amazingly by a veterinarian who was responsible for the Navy's fleet of dolphins. Turns out dolphins are healthier when they have adequate amounts of pentadecanoic acid, which is C15. It also, for us, it helps humans as well, reduces the oxidative stress on our cell membranes, which is part of the aging process, called ferroptosis. So she takes it, I take it, whole family takes it. And if you'd like some, go to drdrew.com/fatty15 for yours. There are discounts there.
Oh my God, look, Drew, it's a dolphin. Oh my gosh.
Hey, Dr. Drew here, and even when we travel, we bring the new convenient fatty gummies. They're delicious, and they are portable, and they're great. And remember, this is a longevity ingredient. It fights against the oxidative stress on our cell membranes. We call that process ferroptosis, discovered in dolphin research by Dr. Van Watson. And I'm taking this every day, even when I travel. It's Fatty 15. M. Malkoff is where you can follow him. MMALKOFF, and markmalkoff.com and carsonpodcast.com. Mark, welcome. Good to see you.
Drew, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
So I don't know where to start. You've interviewed everybody, right? I mean, you're really a student of comedy.
I talked to over 400 people about Johnny Carson, people that went on his show. Like Mel Brooks was on Johnny's first show, October 1962. I talked to all the musical guests. I talked to his writers, producers. If they were on Carson, they wanted to talk to me. And obviously, he was a kingmaker. So I definitely go deeper than anybody else has ever gone in Johnny's 30 years dominating American culture.
For anyone who's younger, they don't appreciate just how, I don't want to say unifying, but how much ubiquity was. You would all stay up till 11:30 and at least watch his monologue. I stood in line 3 times, I'd say, at NBC and sat in the audience.
Whoa. I'm so jealous. Yeah. Was that in New York or Burbank?
It was in Burbank. It was in Burbank, and it was a big raked sort of audience thing they had there. And I don't remember who the guests were, but I remember during the monologue, he does the monologue, and I'm sure he had one guy that wrote the monologue every day, and they'd bring it out on these big, like almost tables that they'd lean up in front of him, and he would come out and he'd do the thing. I mean, it's exactly like you'd see on TV every night. Except he would interact a little bit with the audience some of the time, not all the time. And one time, the audience was very excited about him, his monologue, and they were applauding him. He looked up and he went, "Oh, shit, you guys are hot tonight." And I thought, oh, he's talking to Johnny Carson, talked to us. It was very weird. It was a very weird relationship with that guy. And no one had any idea who he actually was, of course.
It was one of those things. The media made him out to be cold and aloof. But the thing is, Drew, I talked to his friends, people that knew him so intimately, and they all told me the same thing, which shocked me, which is they told me that he was almost the same person on and off camera, which I just couldn't believe. But it was a small group of people that he felt comfortable with. They all would say consistently there was no better friend with loyalty. Now, if you cross Johnny Carson, it wasn't going to go well. But the people I talked to, it was consistent. A little less gregarious, but they said Johnny, when he was out there, was himself. And I couldn't believe that.
Well, I remember I actually spoke in Johnny Carson Theater is it Nebraska or Kansas?
Yes.
Right?
Nebraska, yes. Lincoln.
Yeah, huge theater. And I I remember seeing a video, like a 60-minute report of him speaking there that day. And he seemed so warm and appreciative and homey, when he talked to the Nebraska audience, like very, very much like even a warmer version of the guy you saw on TV. But there are all these stories about him, like you said, when you cross him. What was that all about?
Well, I mean, he would talk about his faults on the show. He would say, "I am a bad drinker. I have one drink too much. I turn into Attila the Hun. Frank Sinatra had to save his life. There were some really bad incidents, a couple where he would have gotten killed by mob figures if Sinatra didn't intervene. But yeah, the drinking and also his being overly competitive. He was just very, very sensitive. So Joan Rivers, who he absolutely loved, who made a star in 1965, he let Miss Rivers become the permanent guest host of the Tonight Show. Unheard of. And then a couple of years later, Barry Diller told me here in New York, the head of Fox, that he said, "You have to tell Johnny you're going to get your show opposite him." Barry Diller said, "I'm in a poker game with Johnny. He's my friend. It's Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, Carl Reiner, Neil Simon. Don't blindside him." Rivers' own friend said, "You have to." And famously, she didn't tell Johnny, and Johnny found out and was heartbroken. And it was over. He never mentioned her on the show again. She just did not exist. And that was a defense mechanism. He was very wounded that happened.
The more astonishing to me is that that particular group hung out with Chevy Chase. How'd they put up with that?
In the beginning, there was a rivalry. Chevy Chase, after 8 episodes on Saturday Night Live, 8 episodes in Unknown on New York Magazine, the successor to Johnny Carson. And Chevy says, it would never want Johnny's gig, something like that. So there was definitely a back and forth. And Chevy wrote an apology letter in 1977 and asked if he could go on the show. And he did. And after that, they were friends. I mean, they socialized. I was with Chevy Chase twice, and he was telling me about Carson. But in 1986, Johnny let Chevy Chase guest host the show. And Chevy had never done that. And people would think it was, pretty easy to do. And Chevy had so much problems. He told Johnny a month later, "No one's going to be the next Johnny Carson. I had no idea that this was that hard." And then a couple years later, he forgets about that and gets his own late night show on Fox, the last 26 episodes.
Yeah, the disaster. What got you into this?
I was just really into classic TV. When I was a kid, it was always Letterman. It was Carson. My dad got me into Mad World. So kids in school talking about Mickey Mouse. I'm talking about Jonathan Winters. But Carson was just so likable. I mean, he was funny with kids, with animals. He was great with the promoting new talent. I mean, the comedians I talked to, they would get very emotional. Some of them had tears in their eyes. And they would tell me, I have 2 birthdays. One, my real birthday, and the second when I went on Johnny Carson. And that sadly doesn't exist anymore. But everyone from Letterman to Leno, the stories are unbelievable of what that show, the power of even Jimmy Buffett told me, "Mark, you're the first person that has ever asked me about Johnny Carson. It was the biggest break of my career in 1981. You're the first." So they really did want to share their stories.
A little bit, Rogan has some of that magic right now, but that's the only thing that comes even close. I would say it's really not. People don't understand how it, like the next day you're a different person. Vern had a little while too, So doing a really good job on Stern sometimes would have a little bit of that. At least in New York City, people would stop you on the street. But if you were on Carson and he called you up to the couch, you're going to be stopped on the street from then on.
I mean, the best example that David Letterman always uses as a model was Freddie Prinze, 19 years old, unknown, goes on Carson show, and within 6 months has the #1 TV show in America. And that was the power of Carson. And he loved that. I mean, he'd take an unknown Bette Midler, and she's a superstar, very loyal to these people. A lot of comedians told me after the show and during breaks that Johnny would help them with their material and do punch-ups. And they were like little kids on Christmas morning. So it was interesting to hear all those stories, which, all the books were very negative. So to hear positive stories, I was very, very surprised that that's who they were. The 400 people I talked to, that's who Johnny was to them.
I recently rewatched the Paul Rubens Pee-wee as himself documentary. And one of the things that jumped out to me was a lot of things about that really affected me. But how you said you were a sort of a, I don't know what word to put to it. You were affected by early television, classic television. Yeah. And I think Paul Rubens was profoundly affected by it. I think Pee-wee clearly, and he puts in the documentary, comes out of the 50s and early 60s childhood television world, which I was exposed to. And it's interesting to me that we exposed our kids to Pee-wee's Playhouse, and so Pee-wee was very meaningful to them. We kind of shared that. But this more recent generation, he just looks weird to them. Why is that funny? Why is that interesting? Oh, yeah. They have no
I didn't know that. That's so interesting. Johnny wouldn't put Paul Rubens on because if there was somebody that was a comedian and there was any question whether this person was real or not, he wouldn't put them on. So Gilbert Gottfried never was allowed to do Carson. Paul Rubens doing Pee-wee. In the late 60s, 68, when Tiny Tim went on the show, Johnny was convinced this guy was not real. And after an appearance, he finally told his staff, no, this guy is for real. And famously, in 1969, in December, 45 million people tuned into this guy's wedding on The Tonight Show, second to the moon landing. So that, again, the power of Johnny. Bob Uecker, who I talked to, said Johnny did not believe the first time I was on, I was a Major League Baseball player. He thought I was a comedian, lying and pretending that I was but they had to show Johnny baseball cards and articles afterwards for him to believe that Uecker, and if anybody was fake, he would not put them on.
So since you're an expert, one of my last questions for you about Carson is, to me, the most, as someone who was, part of that era, the most memorable episode, and I saw it, my memory is I saw it in real time. Who knows whether I saw a replay of it or not, but my memory is I saw it as it happened, is when he gets upset because Rickles has broken his cigarette holder or whatever's in front of him, and he takes the cameras and he goes down to where he's filming Sergeant whatever TV show that lasted 5 minutes and confronts everybody in the studio, allegedly live as they're filming.
Yes,
was that real? Obviously it was planned, I think. Yeah.
The only people that knew what was going on was Johnny's director, Bobby Quinn, and Aaron Rubin, who was the producer of CBO's Sharky. But Carson would watch the guest hosts. He'd watch people like Joe Namath or Arnold Palmer try to host his show. And Bob Newhart was guest hosting, and Rickles was on the night before, and he broke Johnny's cigarette box. And Johnny came to work and said, this has never been done, but put enough cable with the microphone and the camera. We're going to go across the hall in real time. Letterman made a career out of this later on, but it had never been done.
Right.
And Rickles, it was the first time that this guy was ever flustered in his life. And Carson interrupts the taping. They have a live studio audience across the hall, CPO Sharky. And it was TV history. I mean, Carson was the one in 1965 that put Rickles on TV. It was so risky that Johnny, for 3 minutes, had to explain to the audience, now you don't know this next comedian. He's gonna make fun of me, but it's okay. We can laugh.
We need a little bit more of that these days, it seems to me. It would be nice. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Is there anything we missed in our little romp through the Carson history?
I do want to mention, and you mentioned AI. I can't tell you the number of videos on YouTube and social media, just fake Johnny Carson videos and stories. People are emailing me all across America asking if certain things are real. And it seems like 90% of the stuff that they're sending to me is fake. And even Carson is being affected, not in a good way. With AI. And the other thing I wanted to mention is you were talking about memories. People will swear stuff happened. We go into the book and talk about a lot of myths, what is true, what isn't true. But I had people tell me, I watched this. No, this happened. And it never did. It is one of those things. People are convinced. Yeah, they had this famous moment that never happened where Zsa Zsa Gabor was on with a cat in her lap. And she said to Johnny, would you like to pet my pussy? And Johnny supposedly said, I'd love to if you get that damn cat out of the way. It never happened. Right. Both of them said it never happened. The censors wouldn't. But I had people tell me, and there's people across America that are convinced they watched it and it didn't happen.
Yeah, that's how memories work. I mean, you notice how I said, I think I saw the Rickles thing in real time. I've seen it so many times. I may be reconstructing that in my head because that's how memories work. And it's, of course, that's a perfect example of how people's memories work. It's such a vivid, great memory. You build the visual as you're watching. You can imagine it happening, and pretty soon you convince yourself you actually saw it happen. It's pretty easy. That's a good example of how memory works.
The memories are really, I mean, people that write diaries, it helps. Carson had a diary when he was a kid. He actually took a memory class, and he was the only person that hosted the Oscars. No cue cards, no teleprompter. It was all in his head, and he would edit the jokes in his head as they went. So
wow.
Yeah, he was unlike anybody else. The fact that all the late night hosts, including Jimmy Kimmel, Colbert, they still talk about Carson to this day just shows this man's talent.
Yeah, that's true. Well, listen, we thank you, and thank you for all your hard work and a passion for the topic. Where do you want people to go? And they should, of course, get the book.
Oh, yeah. The book, Love Johnny Carson. You can go to carsonpodcast.com and listen to all the episodes. I mean, we lost so many people I talked to, Larry King, Bob Saget, Louis Anderson, and they all share their Carson stories, and it's unbelievable to hear. It is history, so check that out. And please, Love Johnny Carson, the definitive Carson book from 1962 to 1992. Carson dominated not only late night TV, but American culture.
Thanks, Mark.
Good to see you, Drew. Thank you.
You as well. Take care. All right. So coming up, Autumn Smith, the founder of Paleo Valley, is going to come in next Tuesday. It's a week from today. And she's going to come in with me. We're going to do a show together. And she, of course, is somebody I admire greatly, and her products are fantastic. We have James Rosen coming. We have Walter Kern coming next week as well. I'm just looking at the guests here. Victory is going to back Nick Freitas, Salty Cracker. A lot of great guests, but this week we're only doing one. I'm in Florida presently on production on Health Uncensored. It will be airing on, hang on a second, it'll be on Fox Business coming up, I think in the fall is when it starts up. What's that, Caleb? You're trying to say something to me?
We got Emily says that she booked Patricia Heaton for April 7th. That's going to be
Patricia
awesome.
Heaton's coming in. Yeah, she's great. She's been on fire lately, by the way. I just look forward to talking to her. So as always, our guests are great. Emily Barsh doing an incredible job. And we pulled off today. Thank you for being here, all of you. And of course, as soon as I got someone in here to babysit the computer, it worked perfectly. Catastrophe early in the show. Was there some problem that you solved, Caleb, or is just God helping us here?
It's just the tech guy came in and I think he keeps refreshing it when the Starlink loses connection.
He didn't have to. He didn't have to. No,
Drew, here's the funny thing, Drew, is the moment that you said, "Oh, we got through everything," like 2 seconds ago, it skipped.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. So, and it skips on your end. Sometimes it didn't skip on this end, but I'm glad we got through this. We will do others from Florida going forward. We will be down here a bit, but do check out Health Uncensored. It's the little show that could. It's getting better and better all the time, and we've got great guests and great topics we're talking about. It's really interesting. So, thank you all for being here, and we will see you now next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. Emily Barsh is our content producer. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only.
I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.